May seems like such a busy month, and I feel like I don't have as much time to craft. So I started digging into my wood stash again, and I came up with a few projects that are so cute and easy, and the best part is they take hardly any time at all. The wooden cutouts from the Dollar Tree are a great way to make a quick new piece of wall decor for your home. I already have this one on hand, and in addition to that, I'm going to be using a stretch canvas that I got from Michael's. This one measures 10 inches by 20 inches, and I'm going to be using some of these giant wooden craft sticks that I get at Walmart. For this project, I don't need the canvas, I just need the frame, so I'm using my staple remover and I'm pulling the staples out of the back of the frame. I'll hold on to this canvas material though, because it always comes in handy for other projects. There is a hole at the top of this wooden cutout, and I had a few options here. I could have filled in that hole, I could have left it there, but I do have this tool called a crocodile, and it punches through really thick materials, so I decided just to add a few more holes and make it look like it was part of the design of this wooden cutout. I'm so glad that the weather's finally warm enough that I can start using spray paint again. So I have this Rust-Oleum 2x Ultra Coverage in white. Normally I buy the flat, but this time I decided to try the high gloss. So I took my frame and my wooden cutout outside and I gave each of these one good coat. When I came back to look at them, they did look a little dull, so I added a second coat, and that's when you could really see that high gloss finish. These giant craft sticks that I'm using were just a bit too wide for the frame that I had, so I just needed to go through and cut the tip off of one side of each of my craft sticks. Now it's up to you if you want to paint these craft sticks or not. I'm trying to save a little time here, and I really do like the lighter wood color of these craft sticks, so I'm just gluing them right on as is. I started with some hot glue on the back, and starting at the bottom of the frame, I just glued down one of the craft sticks, and then I worked my way up to the top. The last thing I needed to do to finish this craft was add hot glue to the back side of my wooden cutout, and then I just centered it inside my frame. Bamboo cutting boards from the Dollar Tree are a great base to start with when you don't have a lot of time to craft. I'm going to use 2 of these today, and I'm also using some really large wooden beads that I had in my stash. I wanted to rough up the surface of these cutting boards just a bit around the outside because they do have a slight finish to them, and I was afraid that the hot glue wouldn't take. So I'm just using a sanding block, and I'm just going around the outside edges of one side of each of the cutting boards, kind of framing it out so that my glue would take a little bit better. Starting in one corner of the cutting board, now this is the side that I sanded on. I didn't sand on the other side. I just started hot gluing my giant wood beads down. I did the 2 longer sides of the cutting board first, and then I went through and did the shorter side so that I could space the beads out a little bit easier. Now I like the 2 tones of the wood here. I love the color of the bamboo cutting board, and I like the natural wood of the beads, but if you didn't care for that, you could go ahead and paint or stain these however you like. But again, I'm trying to keep this project quick, so I left them as is. Once I had all of my wooden beads in place around the first cutting board, then on my second cutting board, again on the side that I sanded on, I ran hot glue around the edges and I just placed it on top, making sure that it was even with the bottom one. To elevate this riser a little bit more, I'm using those same large wooden beads, and I hot glued one into each corner to act as feet. I wanted to keep the decorating simple, so I'm using some rub-on transfers. Now this video is not sponsored, but this company, Essential Stencil, did send me these for free, so I've been anxious to try these out. I found this really pretty floral grouping that fit really well on the top of this riser. I just had to cut one of the extra little leaves off so that it could fit in the corner of my cutting board. I laid it on top, and the plastic tool that they sent with it to rub on the transfer didn't really work that great, so I did end up taking out my Cricut scraper and I was using that to rub the transfer on. But I was really impressed with these transfers. I thought the detail was really pretty, and once I had a harder piece of plastic to rub it on, it went a lot smoother. Like I said, they aren't sponsoring this video, but I did want to let you know that they did send this to me for free. But I will make sure that I have a link to their website in the description box. They also recommend that once you have your transfer in place, you seal it with some kind of sealer. So I'm using some polyacrylic here with a sponge brush, and I just gave it one thin coat over the top. Did you ever pick up something not knowing exactly what you would make with it, but you knew you could make something with it? That's what happened when I bought this big pack of wooden squares. They're almost 5 inches square, and I've been hanging on to them for a while because I just didn't quite know what I wanted to make with them. In addition to a few of these, I'm also using a roll of contact paper from the Dollar Tree in this marble pattern. I started by laying out 4 of my squares on the back side of the contact paper. I didn't peel the backer off yet. This is just me trying to get a rough measurement of how wide of a piece of the contact paper I would need. Once I had my piece cut out, instead of peeling the whole backer off, I just took a small section off to make it a little bit easier to work with. I laid one of my squares down, and you can see they're pretty thin, but before I laid my second square down, I put one down to act as a spacer in between the 2 squares. So you can see here, after I laid my second one down, I had just a slight gap in between the 2 squares, which will allow the contact paper to then move and be folded. So I repeated that again for the next 2 squares. I laid one of them down to act as a spacer, and then lined my third square up next to it. I peeled the rest of the backer off, and again I'm using one as a spacer so that I could lay down my 4th square. Before folding the contact paper down over the squares, I wanted to remove some of the bulk out of the corners. So I'm just mitering each of the corners here. I'm just removing a small triangle out of each side to make it easier to fold in. I folded this side flap in first, and then I moved to the other side, and I did the same thing. I mitered each of the corners to remove some of that bulk. Now I had a little bit of excess contact paper on this side, and I didn't need quite as big of a flap on this side, so I did remove some of the contact paper from the flap here so that I had a smaller flap. Then I got to work folding down the 2 longer sides. I like to start in the middle and work my way out to both of the edges. I just think it makes a nicer fold that way. I did not fold in that side flap because I'm going to be using that to put this box together. So you can see here, because we left a small gap in between each of these wood squares, I'm able to fold it up and turn it into a box. I ran just a small bead of hot glue along the edge just to help hold it a little bit better, and then I laid that next to the other side of the first wooden square, and I was able to use that extra little flap of contact paper to hold everything in place and create a box. To help the box keep its shape, I'm using some small wooden cubes. I applied hot glue to 2 sides of the cube, and I stuck it on the inside corner of the box. I repeated that for all 4 corners, and this just made it a little bit more sturdy and keep its square shape. Now that those small wood cubes are in place, I was able to take another one of those wooden squares and slide it right down inside to act as a bottom so that I could put things inside of this box. I decided just to add flowers to my box, but this would be a really cute way to create a small gift for somebody if you wanted to just create a quick little box and sort of make a mini gift basket. I think that would be really cute. I just added some floral foam to mine, and then I topped that with some green moss that I had on hand. Now, because these squares were 5 inches tall, I wanted a tall flower to come out of the top of mine, and I had this branch on hand. I think this is from the Dollar Tree from a while ago. I think it's supposed to be a dogwood. I'm not really sure. I'm not really that great with flowers. So I tucked that in the center, and then I just used a few pieces of eucalyptus to go around it. Thanks so so much for coming to hang out with me again today. Leave me a comment and let me know how you've been. I always love chatting with you in the comments. All right, everyone, have a great week, and I'll talk to you in the next one.